What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are live. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I guess it is afternoon. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh, that's right. Because technically, yeah, you're an hour behind me. So it's you're just ending your morning usually.
Yeah, I just got out of a meeting, scarfing some food down, and hop into this. So sorry, Bricks. Yes, we're late a little bit, and that's my fault. I apologize.
Yeah, the life of meetings. That's like our lives now, right? Just like running from one meeting to the next, or I guess clicking on one meeting to the next.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Cool. Well, today, y'all, we are going to talk about. We got a bunch of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a pool franchise that shows an average profit of $270,000 for the top 25% of performers. It's a very low startup cost business. Of course, we'll show you all the other numbers as well. We're going to talk about an established graphics business for sale. So this is a franchise resale that I personally think has some upside based on the average reporting unit doing 1.5 million or 1.48 to be specific. We're going to talk about a new franchisee who saved million in startup costs. That's supposed to have two E's. And that's Nina and Brent, by the way, Kevin. They were the ones that almost bought into food, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll have you tell a story. Um, and then I had someone on the podcast. He's a franchise owner who his business partner is Drew Brees. For anyone who doesn't know that name, I think he either just was or is about to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was a NFL quarterback. So yeah, that's it. So let's dive in. Tell us about this resale.
Okay. So this one, I don't think we've ever featured this company. It's called SpeedPro. So they do different graphic services for small and medium-sized businesses in their area, but they've been around since 2003, have about 130 locations throughout the US. And so really it's, again, a B2B type of franchise where really the owner is going to need to be experienced and comfortable with business to business sales and also networking with other business owners in your particular market. So this franchise, this resale is located in Kirkland, Washington, which is basically like North Seattle area. It's been around since 2014. The owner is moving out of state, so that is the reason for selling. The asking price is 325,000. And the last 12 months revenue is 450,000. So, we'll get to the overall revenue numbers here in a minute for the system wide, but I do think that's, based on those numbers, it's underperforming. There is a lease in place. This is the monthly lease rate and the size of the area of the office. So you do have kind of like a front office where you might meet with customers, and then there's like a back room area with all the actual equipment that makes the graphics and the signs and things like that. So this particular location has one studio director and then 3 1099 installers, so subcontractors that actually do the installation of the graphics and the signage that you produce for your customers. So all of the equipment that's used to produce the materials is included in the sale, and there are some other assets as well. So again, this one, if we want to scroll down a little bit to our take, like I said, they do everything from like wall murals, environmental graphics, and then they also do vehicle and fleet wraps. So if you get a customer that owns, a vehicle fleet to serve their customer base, you could, continue to do vehicle wraps for those type of customers. They do window and floor graphics and trade show displays. So they specifically say the ideal franchisee is somebody that enjoys a B2B environment, maybe has come from like being a high level, employee in a corporate environment or C-level executive, has experience in sales and marketing, and has a net worth of over 500K and liquidity of 250. So somebody that can come in and really, inject some capital into the business. Now this is a resale, so maybe it's a little bit different, but according to the last year FTD, the average gross sales for all the reporting units was 1.488 million in 2023. So when you look at the 450,000 revenue for this particular resale, it's obviously well below average. So, I look at something like this. I think hypothetically, it's probably making some profit. It's definitely underperforming compared to the system wide opportunity to come in and grow and really improve marketing and sales side of the business based on these numbers. So I'll pause there. Tark, what are your initial thoughts or questions on this one?
Yeah, that was a solid breakdown. When I look at these sort of opportunities, this is what's so helpful to me about franchising is that okay, let's say someone goes and says, all right, I want to go buy an independent existing business, right? And maybe they have no experience in that specific industry, but they're like, hey, this seems like a good opportunity, but really hard to understand, like, what is the opportunity? What do I have to compare this against? Like, what are my cogs supposed to be? What are my margins supposed to be? What does the average owner in the space bring in terms of revenue? And so I think, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but the cool thing about franchises and an FTD is that, well, guess what? We know that the average gross sales for all of the reporting units was 1.48 million. So it's clear to say that this is far below average. This is, probably the bottom quartile or bottom 30% in terms of performance. So seems like a great opportunity for someone who's potentially hungry and like you said, the right person, right? With sales experience that can go out and network and connect with business owners and establish some relationships. Yeah, I think pretty cool
Yeah,
overall.
because like a lot of small businesses need this stuff, and you don't need a ton of customers to get to your desired revenue number in this type of business from our experience and learning about similar competitors in this field, because you get repeat business. They have you make one sign and then they may open another location or have another need for graphics. So if you provide good customer service, the hard part is getting your foot in the door and getting those initial projects for them. And that's where it's just going to take somebody coming in and grinding and doing sales and not being afraid to like pick up the phone and call business owners or go and meet with them. So if that doesn't describe you, then don't even think about a business like this. But if you're like, yeah, I like that challenge, I'm totally fine doing B2B sales, then it could be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's how sometimes I feel like what people that may be underperforming, it's just like it's the wrong skill set. It's kind of like that phrase, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then like dot dot dot, it's like everyone has their own skill set. Actually, I saw a funny meme video. I'm like constantly like scrolling looking at shorts, whether it's like Facebook or YouTube, whatever, and the caption above the video is like you know when you're super talented but you're just in the wrong spot or place or something like that. And it was like this, like, I don't know, she probably looked like she was like 8 or 9 year old little girl trying to like kick a soccer ball out of practice where they had cones lined up, and she just like barely swiped the ball. It looked like pretty rough and embarrassing. And then right after she did it, she just kind of bounced off and then like did a backflip and like 3 cartwheels. And it was like obvious that like gymnastics was her jam. And so I was like, oh, interesting. So moral of the story is, even if you're someone who sucks at sales, this opportunity may not be for you. But if you go to franchiseempire.com/resale, see that segue? Do you see how clean that was, guys? If you go to franchiseempire.com/resales, if you're interested in this specific opportunity, you go ahead and enter your info there. You'll be able to set up a meeting with the team to so that we can get you introduced to this specific opportunity. Or if you just want to know, hey, what if any resales are available in your specific market, then the team will be able to take a look at that for you. And of course, you see the little banner at the bottom. If you guys don't get our newsletter, we send this out via email every Sunday. So that's at franchiseempire.com/newsletter. You won't have to wait till Monday. You'll be able to read it at your own pace as well. Whoops, I took away the wrong one. All right. So, case study. Kevin, tell us about. I mean, you worked with them, so tell us about Nina and Brent and kind of what what you helped them avoid and then what that led to.
Yeah, Nina and Brent were awesome couple to work with. So they, excuse me, recently had a child and kind of realized they really wanted more freedom over their lifestyle and the financial freedom, lifestyle freedom, and so they were pretty committed to buying a franchise. They were very far down the path, like getting ready to sign with a coffee franchise, and for whatever reason they pumped the brakes and put a pause on it, and they thought maybe we should reach out and like see what else is potentially out there, if there's expert advice we can get to potentially like you know validate that this is the right decision, or like valid or confirm maybe we should just put a pause on this altogether.
Which
So
was a smart move.
yes, yes, I'm very very happy they did that. So, and this is a coffee franchise I'm very very familiar with. It's out of my hometown. Like I know it pretty well. So, this was going to be $1 million plus investment for them. That type of investment, and so really going through our process pretty quickly just to see and confirm like should we move forward with the coffee or should we actually explore some of these options? Like that's what they wanted to do. So we moved pretty quickly when we went through our standard process. We got new ideas in front of them. And ultimately they realized going through, the ZTPF system, watching the modules, working with us that, that wasn't going to be the best path for them for a number of reasons. Really big investment, takes a long time to cash flow, like long, long time. So, that doesn't work for a lot of people. And for them, they just realized, and we're thankful that that wasn't the path they ended up going down, and then they ended up going in a completely different direction and buying a home services franchise that is a restoration and cleaning franchise. So they bought 3 territories, so a huge territory to serve in a very very good market in Florida. And so the investment for them just to get into 3 territories was, I don't know, maybe 15% of the investment that they were going to spend on the other franchise. So huge opportunity for them. It was a great fit for Nina to run full time. She's very much like operations focused, very project management oriented. She can meet with people. She's very good at communication. I mean, it was a perfect fit. So I'm very excited for them. It's it's going to be something that they can scale. And they already have a big enough territory where they really probably don't need any more for the foreseeable future to grow a nice business for themselves. So that was a long summary, but what did I miss there?
No, that was great. Yeah, that was phenomenal. So, the lesson learned there, what I really take away from that is that, because we have people, or at least I get emails or comments from people that it's like, oh, I wish I would have found your stuff before I signed my franchise agreement. I wound up buying the wrong franchise. I got into something that I'm trying to get out of, and so I love that the fact that they reached out to us first, and then got started working with you guys, and to I mean, to only get up and open for I mean, actually theirs will wind up being more than 200 grand because they bought three territories, but it just puts them in way better a position. So lesson learned, guys, is like don't try to do it on your own. And even
Yeah.
when like we have people coming to us, they're like, we know we want to buy this franchise, and it's like, okay, cool. What are your what are you looking at? Tell us more about it and why and what are your goals? And then all of a sudden, after like you said, Kevin, after 10 or 15 minutes, maybe like, oh crap, this actually we're headed in the wrong direction here. This doesn't align with our goals, and there were some kind of skeletons in the closet that we didn't know about. So, whether it's us or someone else, get professional guidance. Like at least get a second opinion
Yeah.
before you pull the trigger on whatever you're going to like pull the trigger on.
And
So,
it doesn't always happen this way. I mean, I'd point out like, we work with people that come to us and they're like, this is a franchise we're pretty deep in the process with. And after going through our process and really asking them a bunch of questions, reviewing their financials, going through their leadership and skill set assessment that they take, it's like, yeah, I mean, I can't argue I'm very open and honest with people. Like, I can't argue against that mindset. I think we could still help you explore other options that are similar, but based on what you're telling me and your goals and your strengths, like, yeah, that one checks all the boxes. So you should definitely consider and keep considering it and go through this DTPF process of due diligence with that one to just help confirm it. But it's not like we always say like, no, it's not going to be a good fit. That's not the case. Like, it happens quite a bit where people are pursuing something that's a good fit and they just don't know how to go through validation the proper way, and we can help with that.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. That is a really good point. Like we will, yeah, and I think that's something that you and Krista have done a really good job of, just like being 100, keeping it 100 with people. Like, yeah, looks like a good opportunity.
We've got a couple questions in there. I don't know if you want to address them now or.
Yeah, let's take David's first because David's a client, right?
Yep.
David's
so
a client.
David, tell us how many persons in a territory would be considered as a big territory. You want to take this one or I mean?
No, you take it. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, David. I think it depends on the type of franchise. I know that's like a easy way out type of answer, but it definitely depends. So, for example, like restoration business is mostly catered towards. I mean, you can do commercial work, but I think the way they craft their territories is based on like single family households owned and or population. So, for that type of business, I would say around like 200,000 population is probably a reasonable territory size, so I'm not even sure which, what it was specifically for this, but around that is typically what we see. But some of them will, like, if it's like a senior care franchise, you might look at territories differently. It might be how many people are the age of 65 or older with a household income of, 75,000 plus. That's how they craft their territories. So it really depends on the type of franchise on, what we think is reasonable. I don't love when people like franchises really try to like stack people on top of each other in a type of industry where you need a bigger franchise. So that is something we kind of look at. But for the most part, I think franchisors have gotten pretty reasonable in terms of how they're crafting it. There's some that want like just one per a huge metro area, and that's how they've always grown. And they just want, one owner that's really going to scale, but you need a higher net worth and higher capital requirement because they really want you to reinvest and grow the business. So that was a long answer. Tarek, what would you add to that?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, there's just so many nuances to it. So the good news, David, is you get to work with Kevin and ask him one-on-one, and break it down in a manner that's specific to your situation. I'll take a quick one on this. Is it true that most grocery store and dollar chains aren't franchises? I believe so. Yeah, I believe majority of them are just corporate owned. And I don't think that'd be the business that I'd want to be in personally. Do you think opening up a hot dog cart franchise is a good or bad investment in your opinion? I don't know. I mean, without knowing the startup costs and potential average sales and like location. I mean, I think if you were to say I want to open up a hot dog cart in a suburban market, it probably wouldn't work. But if you said you're going to be like on the corner in DC or New York, it might be effective. So I think there's a lot left to the imagination there. What's not left to the imagination is the numbers on this franchise. Kevin, tell us about this pool franchise.
Yeah, so this is called America's Swimming Pool Company. So it's ASP for short. They were founded in 2002 out of Macon, Georgia. Macon's south of Atlanta by maybe an hour and a half or so. Started franchising in 2006. Their parent company is Authority Brands. So parent company, umbrella company, however you want to say it. Authority Brands has maybe 12 to 15 different home services franchises underneath its umbrella, and ASP is one of them. So they're pretty well established. They have 375 franchise units throughout the country. Total investment's pretty reasonable for this one, between 84,000 and 207,000. Actually helped someone buy this in Austin, Texas, a couple years ago, and actually went to Discovery Day with the client just to experience it, and was impressed with their team. They've got some good systems in place and support for sure. But what ASP does is they provide they do both residential and commercial pools, and they do pool cleaning, which is 40% of their total revenue, equipment replacement and repair, which is like, let's say your pump goes to shit and you have to replace it, that's 40%. And then pool renovations, so those are like bigger projects, is only 20%. A lot of what you see is a lot of local companies will focus more on like new pool installation and those bigger projects that take several months to complete. And there's a lot of very fragmented, like, chuck in a truck type of companies that do this side of it, the cleaning side. So depending on your market, where Tarek is in Florida, it's probably very saturated with pool companies, I imagine. But in some markets, like where I live in Nebraska, it's very, very hard to find anyone who's going to clean your pool. So kind of depends. Like, and I know they do say that a lot of their top performing markets are in northern states where, they don't really operate for a decent amount of the year, but they still do pretty high revenues because there's enough demand. So, this is one where the benefits of this franchise are it's recurring revenue. You're going to have those contracts in place with both residential and commercial customers to clean their pools and do any maintenance. They have a pretty cool app where, let's say your tech is out there doing the chemicals and he sees something wrong with the pump, he can take a picture and report it to the customer and say, hey, it's going to cost this much, we can fix it next time. So that's kind of cool. And the customer can also report things back to them. The software system that they have is proprietary and it's built by ESP, and it's really impressive. Everything from like scheduling and invoicing. So it's really a systemized business that happens to be in like pool maintenance and repair industry. So this one, if we look at the item 19, I'm having trouble reading it. I don't know if Tarek, if you could.
Oh, let's see. Yeah. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. I don't think there's a ton of. Whoop. Okay, I don't think it's going to get a lot bigger than that. But all right, so let's go average first. So average gross revenue per territory, and this is where we got the this is sales, and then we'll talk about net profit in a little bit. Average gross sale for the entire system for the 121 territories that were in operation for the entire 2023. You got $829,000 in average sales. Bottom 25% does 190 on average. The third quartile does 450,000 on average in sales. Second quartile, 817,000 in sales on average. And then the top 25% of performers do 1.78 million in sales on average with the highest territory. So that's a single territory. The highest territory does $3.5 million in sales, which is pretty dang wild for something that costs less than $200,000 to get open. I mean, granted, okay, that's like a single person, but that's pretty incredible. It shows that there are over 30 territories in this data pool that are all doing over $1 million.
Yeah. And speaking of territories, I know the way they crafted, they have like a software system that they can actually see the amount of existing pools in a territory. So it needs to be 3,000 pools or more. I think last time I checked is how they build the territory, and that can be residential and commercial pools. So they don't base it on population or households or anything. It's based on pool count.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I always wonder how like some of these data companies and stuff get this information and the access. I guess nowadays there's a way to figure out everything.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see this, or you want me to hit on it?
Oh yeah, this is average net profit per territory by quartile. So the first graph was obviously gross revenue. This is net profit. So top 25% average net profit per territory was 270,000. Second quartile, 114,000. Third quartile, 45,000, and the bottom was in the negative by 4,000 roughly. So still pretty good for per territory profit. On average per territory, 106,000 roughly. So system wide.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, not many franchisors actually like show that information.
So yeah, some benefits of this, like you have to maintain your pool or else it's going to get really nasty. So I think a lot of people try to do it themselves at the start and then they get tired of it. So then they hire a company like this. And then, it becomes stable, recurring revenue that you can build upon. So as you get a certain number of customers for one tech, then you just had another tech in a van or a truck, whatever it may be, and you just keep scaling from there. You can operate out of a single small warehouse. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. So, it is something that you can scale. They do very targeted marketing, so they get the addresses of all those pools, which is cool. So that's nice. And then they do the training was pretty impressive. They actually have a whole indoor facility that has a bunch of like little pools and pumps and stuff like that, with which they hold their training. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, it was huge. It was like a kind of like a dome almost, but yeah, they have a good setup there in Macon. It's south of Atlanta, so it's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, but it's a cool little town.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just talking to a franchise owner the other day, and they were saying they had owned multiple brands, and they said one of the brands they had bought, they had regretted that they bought it, and said that the training was just terrible. That it was just like really really bad in a specific niche, and like they left confused, other owners left confused, and so and that was in like the painting niche, and I was like, oh man, that sucks because there's so many great painting franchises. So just shows you the importance of like the training and support. And I think that's crazy that you actually went to like the discovery day. Like there's not many, brokers out there, consultants that would actually do that.
Yeah, I knew he was a former coworker of mine, and I just was interested in learning, and but it's a good experience. I mean, they had a couple guys that were like mainly their operations training guys, and these guys were just like awesome. And they're like, we like to be out in the field, and they would actually go. So after a franchisee goes through training at corporate, and then they start getting their business launched, they send these guys out two 1 week periods, one right away, and then one like a few months into their business, which I think is really cool to do that type of support in the field. So I like this one. I think it does. The only caveat I would say is it does take a while to build up. Like you need a lot of customers because it's a lower, it's kind of like a cleaning company, like a residential cleaning company. It's very similar. So you need a higher volume. So, and that can take a while to build up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unless you get some of the big repair jobs. Oh man, I remember when like our heater went when we lived in California, like our heater went out in our pool. I mean, that thing was like thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
replace, and like some of that equipment can get expensive, and if you got kids and they're driving you crazy in the house, like you may not want to, it becomes one of those things. It actually becomes something that could still even do well during hard times, because like I tell you what, if you got a pool and you're used to your kids being in the pool and they're inside and they're driving you crazy, you're like, all right, screw it, I'm spending the $2,000 to repair or whatever it is.
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember they said a lot of pool companies did amazing during COVID because people were home, they were getting antsy, wanted to do home projects, and they're like, well, we need to figure out something our kids can like entertain themselves. That was the exact feedback they got from customers. So I do think it's yeah, it's discretionary spending, so it's not for everyone. But what's nice again is they build the territories based on existing pools because they're 80% of their revenue comes from existing pools and problems and maintenance with those.
Word. Cool, y'all. Well, if you're interested in finding out, I mean, this specific opportunity, with 375 territories already established, might be tricky, but to find out if anything's available, not to find out, but if there's anything available. But you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. We can check, and there's always other concepts out there that are similar to that are in a similar space, just not with the same company. Or if you just want to find out, hey, what are some of the good quality franchises that are available in my area, in different industries that match my skill set, that match my budget, that matches my financial goals, and you want to, make your process easier, then go to franchiseempire.com/check territory, have a, free 15-minute call with the team, and you'll be able to walk away smarter, wiser, and maybe 6 months down the road, a franchise owner, or maybe not. And that's cool too. Last but not least, Franchise Empire Show. So Franchise Empire Show, talked to this guy Alex, who's business partners with Drew Brees, committed to opening up 150 franchise locations for an acai bowl company. What's funny is actually they, about 9 months to a year after we had opened our first store in California, they opened up across the street from us. And I remember like freaking out. I mean, it was just, I didn't know. I was like, was this going to kill our business? Like, are we going to be able to survive with a competitor? Because we were in there was not a large population density kind of in our area. And it was already like we were on the edge of meeting the franchisor's demographic requirements. So I remember I had a couple sleepless nights after they opened up across the street, and it turned out that our sales just kept going up. So and we did things a little bit different. But anyways, it was pretty cool. We talked about how, so Alex used to own 32 wireless store franchises, like those like authorized Verizon like retailer stores. And him and his business partner had a successful exit. He owns 8 different businesses now. Pretty crazy. He's a pretty sharp guy, super cool to talk to. So definitely go check that out, the Franchise Empire Show. You can look up the YouTube channel. We only put that on the Franchise Empire Show YouTube channel. It's not on our main YouTube channel. And you can also listen on any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts to. So cool. Anything else, Kevin, before we wrap?
Do you know Drew Brees is a big pickleball guy?
No, I didn't. How do you know that?
I just know from I'm a pickleball nerd, but he's invested into a pickleball franchise as well.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
cool, man. My buddy, I was just talking to my buddy this weekend, and him and his wife, they had a pickleball court built on their property.
nice.
And now they're building an indoor one on their property because they're in Texas, so it gets like just absurdly hot.
Yeah.
And they're loaded, so they're like, "Yep, we're gonna build an indoor one."
Might as well.
Wow.
Yeah. If you have the means, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Cool. All right, y'all. We'll catch you next time. Peace.